Hello and welcome to this video. Today I decided to do some autumn crafting. So I went outside on a walk and collected all of these little things. Got some beech nut husks, got some pine cones, some acorn tops and some feathers that I found. All of these I have washed and then put in the oven at I think I used like at least 80 degrees Celsius just for like half an hour or so until they were warm through, just to make sure that some of the like smaller pathogens for like mice and stuff that may have crawled over them at least got somewhat destroyed. Because I want these to last also, so I made sure that they also were completely dry. And I decided to make some really simple crafts. Now originally I would have loved to use just some normal like sculpting, air dry sculpting medium, but I didn't have any. The only I had was paper clay, so I'm gonna use this. That means I'm gonna have like a little bit less of a like discerning shape, but I think it still could look simple and cute. I'm going for simple with nature incorporated here. I'm not going for like very highly detailed sculpting in this case. This is just a simple autumnal project that I picked up. And I just wanted to make some animals that incorporate all of these little findings that I had. Now, of course, any kind of air dry clay would have been a bit nicer because like paper clay, first of all, takes a bit longer to dry actually. And it's also not holding details as much. But the one advantage of it is that when it dries, it actually dries really light. And you can actually, on a lower temperature, put it in the oven and have it dry out that way, which is what I'm going to do because I know these blobs will take at least a week to dry fully, else in the oven it may maybe take a couple hours. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to make a hedgehog with these pinecone like pieces that I broke off, and I'm just poking them in, trying to make them hold. I know they will not. I will likely have to go in with some glue later, but I didn't feel like using any PVA right now because I know that when I want to paint it and there's PVA, you know, you have the like slicker top, the paint may not hold as well, so I decided to try it like this. And I'm basically just really letting myself get inspired by the shapes that everything has. I thought like some like cute top hats or like any kind of hat with some of these materials, in this case the beech nut husks, would be perfect, and you know, so I went with it. And as I said, I wanted to keep these shapes truly simple. Now, of course, I could have used pre-colored Fimo or something, but I wanted to paint them in more natural colors, so, you know, wasting any kind of colored Fimo, I guess, wasn't really, you know, what I was going for. But of course, if you want a more, you know, chibi style or like, you know, whatever you want to make, you can always go with oven baked clay because most of these things should be totally fine at the temperatures that you need for the clay to bake in the oven. As long as you, of course, don't have them in too long because they may dry out a bit too much, but usually it should be fine. At least from what I did so far. I did sculptures around sticks and stuff and they were all fine. And I think with these pine cones and stuff, it's the same. You may just have to be careful with like things like the beech nut, because I don't know if the fine fibers like may catch a bit and like burn a little bit. So maybe if you can avoid like putting these in the oven or like wrap them in foil so they don't get brown. But yeah, very simple, nice autumnal thing. Just grabbing some things from outside and some clay and making some fun creatures. Of course, you can always do some fantasy creatures. I saw some people actually just using sticks and outside stuff to make figures, which I think is also really cute. But in this case, I really wanted to make these animals. And you know, when I saw this pine cone, I was immediately inspired by a squirrel tail, so that's what I'm going for in this one, and of course the squirrel needs a cute little head. And I'm really keeping the head shapes and the body shapes super simple, just trying to like have them pose a little bit with their arms and stuff just to make it look like something. But as I said, less detail, more like having fun with the sculptures and with nature and then later painting. Also, the one other advantage of paperclay is it takes paint super well. But yeah, for this last one I wanted to make a bird, so I got some feathers. Some of these were from badges from my old roommate that I collected. They just lay on the floor, so you know, I kept them for like years and thought that I may want to use them for some craft. And some of these were just outside from like, you know, pigeons, crows and stuff that dropped them. And you know, of course, I always sanitize my feathers because you may never know what happens, but you know, what the animals may have like crawling on top of them. But yeah, they're great crafting material and you can find them naturally in the wild laying around a lot. I'm actually using these feathers to like make the wings, and I used the full feather just to like get the shape right, and then I like used the front part to cut out the finer shape, and then I traced that onto the next feather, and it worked out really well. And then I made the small little feather for the top. These smaller feathers you can also use excellently well for like dioramas if you want to make like a quill or something at like a tinier scale. These smaller feathers work excellently, and as you could see, I also made a beak out of like the front quill part of the feather. And yeah, it worked surprisingly well. And then of course, because of security reasons, I used some B7000 just to lock everything in place. Now, the one thing that kind of didn't work for some reason was like the B7000 held up great for everything besides the pinecone stuff. For that I had to put some super glue underneath some of them. I don't know if it has something to do with like them having oils inside of them a bit more or something. But like the entire pinecone was fine, but that was also stuck a bit more in the squirrel, you know, in the clay. But yeah, for the little hedgehog I had to go more. I was actually painting it already, and then like stuff came loose. Also, I painted off camera. I mean, like, I wasn't in focus at all. I was recording, so that's why I didn't see the first step. But I used like a very dark brown for in between the pinecone pieces, and then I went in with like a cream tone and a lighter, more like, you know, orangey brown to like blend it in at the arms and the feet, just to keep like the belly and the face a bit lighter. And then lastly, I'm using some of this like darker brown just to blend in the sides. And I'm just using acrylics here. Actually, most of these were from a paint by numbers kit that I had. And these were so decent that I thought, you know, why not use them up? And paperclay is the ideal medium for that, because these, you know, they're not as covering as like other acrylics. These actually worked really well on the white paperclay, as you can see, and they made some nice blends. I also added some toe beans before actually going over to the next. I decided to tackle the eyes last because I really wanted everything to dry and then make sure I knew what kind of style of eyes I would get. Now for the squirrel, I started off with some white before moving back over to the hedgehog, and I just wanted to shade the pinecone bits a little bit more. Hedgehogs have like a variety of colors in their little spikes, so like they have like some gray tones and like some lighter like browns and whites and stuff. You can really see that when you like look at a close-up of a hedgehog, so I kind of wanted to shade them a little bit more just with some lighter browns. I didn't want to go like full white and like paint every single one of them. I just wanted to give it a more natural shading. Just, you know, the darker base and then a lighter thing on top. I actually went in with a darker black a little bit later just to like shade them a bit more in between, make them look a bit darker. And then I went back to the squirrel. This was basically all painted in one go, and I just, you know, went back and forth whenever like a coat of paint was drying on one thing. The nice thing about paperclay, of course, is it also absorbs the paint, so yes, you need a bit more paint, but the paint also dries quicker, you know. So you can always like gesso it if you don't want to have that effect, but I thought I could use it very well. So the squirrel just gets this brown orange, then like a lighter tone for the hands, and then also some toe beans. Of course the feet don't look actually, like actual square feet, but at this point, as I mentioned, proportions aren't really what I'm going for, and realism, it just, supposed to kind of look like the thing and look cute. As for the bird, it got a white coat, like in the front, just where it was supposed to be white, and then I went in and blended in varying shades of brown. I kind of was inspired by some patterns in birds, but I didn't really like follow any like really closely at all. I just went with the flow and like blended where I wanted to blend, add some other colors in, went a bit back and forth with what I liked, and I think in the end it turned out pretty cute. Once I got all the blending done, it was finally time for the eyes, and I decided to just sketch them out with my acrylic marker first. And once I knew, like with a lighter brown, because I knew that I could easily paint over that, and once I liked the shape, I went in with a black, and then I freehanded the nose, and I did that basically for all of them. It looked a bit flat though. I really wanted to add some color and some shading, so I went in with some thinner brushed acrylic markers and just added some color, going a bit back and forth on which shape I want them to have, and I then go in with the black again just to have the, iris a little bit more defined and all that stuff, just to make it look a bit more natural. On my first few tries, I actually overpainted a bit. The surface is a little uneven, so getting the color in evenly was a bit hard, but I think I managed pretty well in the end. And all that's left as a final thing is just a little gloss varnish on the eyes and nose, just to make it look, a little bit more alive and win and stuff. And of course some highlights. These little creatures are finished. I'm actually super happy with them. I think they turned out adorably. Of course, you can always give them way more details, use other methods, but I really wanted this simple style, just some simple decor to place, and basically just having fun with all these little things that you can find outside. Now, as I mentioned, of course, everybody can do their own style, and I actually kept some of these collectibles. Of course, next year there will always be some falling from the trees, but I think I want to make some like more detailed sculptures or something different with them at some point in the future, but for now I'm really happy. I think these guys turned out super adorable and they look great on my shelf as like a little autumnal decor. And as always, I hope this inspired some of you to maybe try out something like this yourselves. I remember in my childhood we used to take air dry clay and the like outsides of the little chestnuts, and then we would like use them as spikes for like hedgehogs and stuff, or like make just out of the like acorns and stuff, make some little squirrels and stuff with like pipe cleaners. And I remember that being one of my favorite things to do in autumn. And these are kind of in the same realm. Very fun, very simple. But anyways, let me know in the comments down below. Did you have some crafts like these that you maybe did as a child or even now during autumn with like all these collectibles? And also let me know which animal of the ones I created is your favorite. And as always, I hope you have a great day. See you next time. Bye bye!